Race fans, Ryan Aho here, and the one and only Bert Lehman. Bert, sounds like you had a long day, but how was your weekend?
Well, other than it rained for a good portion of the weekend, weekend was good otherwise. But no racing again in eastern Wisconsin except at
Liar. I was at Liar, Plymouth.
Oh yeah, that's right, Plymouth
Super
race.
6, man. You're a late model guy. It was like, what are we talking about here? Had to pick on you just a little bit. Dirt Race Central, of course, catching the action for that one.
Yeah, Plymouth raced on Saturday night. Gravity Park raced on Friday night. I think those were the only tracks that got races in.
Lot of rainouts in Wissota country, but a few more kind of getting their feet wet here and getting some things started. But let's talk about this, right? Episode 176. Before we get into it, of course, a shout out to one of our great sponsors, Zeuli's Race Engines. That time of year, Bert, that says one thing and one thing only. Zeuli's Race Engines, victory lane. That's just how it works, right? And you're going to see a lot of that. I mean, the season is literally just getting underway, but you're going to see a lot of wins, whether it's track wins, regular wins, race wins, series wins, championships, you name it. Zeuli's Race Engines, that's what you want to start. You want to start with a good piece under the hood, and if you can't beat them, join them. Check out Zeuli's Race Engines. So, episode 176, Bert. We're going to talk a little bit our top 5 moments of the week, some fan feedback, right? We have some who's hot, who's not, a little bit more mojo, right, from the One to Go show here this past week on that part of it. And our picks, of course. We had some shows that we picked on the national scene. We have some bold, maybe not so bold predictions, all kinds of fun stuff here, Bert.
Yeah, and I heard that you went racing. You actually have more races in than I do. I don't have any in yet. I have a practice in. I have one practice in.
Yeah, I got hot laps, right? I got hot. We talking about practice. We talking about practice, right? Yeah. So my buddy Dave was running. He said, "Hey, I'm running down at Fairbury again," and I'm like, "Man, I want to get to Falls. I got to get down there." I looked at the weather, and when I looked at it, and he looked at it, it's kind of one of those deals that didn't look like any weather was coming in till 11, 12 o'clock, and the wind switched like that. They got hot laps, they got qualifying, they got the national anthem. I think the hobby mods were lined up to go out for heat races, and it started to rain, and that was that. So a couple things. I am going to get back to this place, Bert. I'm jacked. I was so jacked to be there. It's like I'm just absolutely encapsulated by this place. I mean, we watch it on Flow, impressive racing. The first thing I noticed, I pull into town, right? And they got a big banner, coming into town, welcome to Fairbury, home of the Fairbury Speedway. And literally, and I don't know if it's on every street corner because I didn't drive around the whole entire town, but all over town, hanging from like I don't know if it's the light poles or must be the poles for like streets or whatever, everywhere, right? Fairbury, Illinois, home of the Fairbury Speedway. I'm like, everywhere. It reminded me of going to Knoxville, and I mean, just racing everywhere. And I think the culture is pretty big down there, kind of tucked back, Bert, in a little tiny corner. Like if they wanted to expand that place, they would have to like eminent domain all the houses in the area because there is literally no room for expansion there. But this is why I love streaming, right? I mean, I look at the weather and I'm like, weather looks crappy. I'll watch it online. If it rains out, I'll watch something else. And Dave's like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to waste your day driving down there. Guy, do you have any idea? I mean, my pit guys be the first one to tell you how many days I wasted of theirs chasing me all over the countryside when it rained out. So you can't really feel bad for me because a lot of my pit guys, Jim, Casey, all them guys, Chad, Clint, they chased all over the countryside, and we got fatter. We just, if it rained out, we went out to eat. That's kind of what we did. So, Bert, let's jump into our top 5 moments of the week, and this part of it, brought to you right here, right? It's brought to you by Daytona One Performance Lubricants. Well, if you want to know something about lubricants, you go to an expert. I'm just a guy with a show. right? I'm not an expert. Who's an expert? Buck is an expert. He's in the Hall of Fame, Bert, for lubricants for NASA, the NASA Hall of Fame. Okay. So I would say he's probably pretty well educated on the lubricant part of this. They have everything from stuff for your engines, for gears, for transmissions, you name it. They have a lot of stuff for engine assembly lubes. They got, all kinds of stuff there, but also they have some lubricants that can help you with your tires. And lubricants, the proper lubrication, Bert, what does it do? It helps you save money, right? I mean, when you're doing maintenance, if you're going to grease something, you're doing that to prolong it. Well, if you get the right lubricants for the right parts, it's going to help those parts last longer. And I'm telling you, racers right now, whether you can get tires or not, doesn't appear like there's a shortage, but they are really expensive. And in some areas, tires are insanely expensive. He has products out there that can help you get more life out of your racing tires. And to get some info on that, give Chad a call. His number 507-828-3536. Give him a call. Ask him to get you all the information you need so you can make an educated decision if this is a product for you or not. So, Bert, let's jump into this. Number 5. Let's head down to the Dairyland Showdown, Mississippi Thunder Speedway. They got one night in, night 2, night 3. Of course, Mother Nature whooped their ass. Not a fan of Mother Nature. We're not friends. Okay, we're not friends. Now, a little bit of action, a lot of it action. Number 5, Jake Tim. Oh, so close. Oh, so close to parking in victory lane. I mean, literally had it won. B. Shep put a challenge on him on the closing lap there, got inside of him. Jake powered back around him in 1 and 2. I'm like, man, great move, kid. And he bonsaied it in there, and he did what every good racer does. He shoved it down to the bottom to try to block the slider because Brandon Shepard, all these top guys, if you leave the door open, they're coming for you. Misjudged it, clips a lapper, spins himself up against the fence, coughs it up, gives it away. Oh, man. Did you see that? That was a bummer.
Yeah, I saw it. And, yeah, I mean, when I watched it initially, it's like, because he ran that whole race practically on the high side. So it's like,
right.
why did you go to the low side? You've been running so well on the high side. But I see your point. Yeah, he was trying to block the slider. But if you listen to Bishop's interview after the race, he said he entered the corner high. He didn't need to block a slider. But I mean, obviously, you don't know that when you're out on the track. I mean, you have not even a second to make a decision as to what you're going to do. So yeah, tough break for him. But on Facebook and stuff, he admitted it was his mistake. He took full blame for it, and just move on to the next race.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. I mean, it wasn't a malicious deal. He just went down to. I mean, it's an Illinois guy behind you. There's nobody better at slide jobs than Illinois late model racers. It just is what it is. So he tried to block. He messed up. And you're right, Bert. He jumped down there. He's like, hey, I messed up. I misjudged. Apologize. It is what it is. That's a boss move, right? Tip of the cap right there, Jake Tim. Hey, the kid's talented. He's fast. He's going to win races. But when you make a mistake, own it. It is what it is, especially now, right? With streaming, like literally everybody can look at it and be like, guy, that was your fault. And he's like, it's on me. It is what it is. What's number 4?
We're staying at Mississippi Thunder, and another incident, but this one the tempers weren't as as calm as the Jake Tim incident. Of course, we're talking about the B1 bomber, Brent Larson, and his incident with Cade Dillard. How many laps were left in that race?
Handful. I think they must have been under 10 left, under 10, somewhere in there, maybe 8. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, he wasn't real thrilled with the thriller. Let's just put it that way.
And, this was a case where Dillard was running the cushion, and I mean, the cushion was way up on the top side. And, Larson was running, well, you could say the low side, the middle side, and then moving into the high side. I mean, in corner 4 of the previous lap, he pushed Bobby Pierce all the way to the wall. as Pierce was running the high side. And then, coming out of 2, the announcers even said that coming out of 2, the outside wall on the backstretch comes out a little bit. And so they were talking about that. But I think it's just a case where Larson went up into Dillard's lane. And if you watch it, you can see Dillard was on the he checked up to try to avoid it. But Dillard, the nose of Dillard's car was up to the front tires of Larson's car coming out of 2. And Larson's comments on the World of Outlaws results page, he says, you can't see a car until basically it's in front of you. Well,
right.
But other drivers seem to avoid. Jake Kim was running that high side, and which Scott brother was he racing against?
Stormy.
And Stormy was on the inside, and there were many laps where I didn't think Tim was gonna have room to keep going on the outside, but Stormy, gave him room. So you kind of have to be aware, I guess. I can read.
I think Brent had an incident in that same spot last year with Jimmy Mars.
Okay, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Dillard's comment was he knew he was in a bind and started using the whole track. We entered turn 1 and got a run on the top. I felt like I was far enough. When I saw he wasn't leaving any room, I checked up to leave him room. You can watch the video. I got on the brakes and he just kept coming. And the way I saw it, that's kind of accurate the way I saw it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I want to see Brent Larson win.
Oh
races.
yeah, me too.
He's one of our guys, right? But he was definitely not going to win that race, right? He was going to slip back, probably still finish in the top 5. Part of the deal there, Bert, I got to be honest with you. It's Mississippi Thunder. You want to win races, you bang the boards. That's what you do. And
oh yeah,
the fact that he stayed in the lead for so long, like you said, he did kind of squeeze Bobby there, and nothing, whatever. It's racing. Bobby would have did the same thing. We've seen him do it, but the fact of the matter is, Dillard did lift. We saw that.
Right.
He tried to squeeze in there and realized not happening, lifted, clipped him, and just a bad deal.
I'll read a comment from Larson, and I'm hoping this comment was made prior to him seeing the video. But he made the comment, we know that the guy in front can't tell you're there until you're past him. So you have to lift for somebody. If you don't want to lift, then that's how we'll play the game. I've lifted for him a bunch while he's sliding all over the track, and I just won't do it anymore. I'll change the way I race him. I can tell you that much.
Boys will be boys. We'll see how this one transpires. I'm sure they're going to see more of each other. So stay tuned. Is this the end, right, of the B1 Cade Dillard saga, or are cooler heads going to prevail and they're both going to realize, hey, it's racing. We're racing hard. We're racing for a win. And when you're racing that hard up front, shit's going to happen. And shit did happen. It just is what it is. So let's jump.
Like you said, it was good to see Larson running up near the front and doing well. He ran in top 5 last year at this race, right?
He did. And the year before.
Yeah.
And the year before. So he's good at home. Heck, he even had a good run at Cedar. So he's good on his home turf. Back when it was a trioval, he won a ton of races there back in the Superstock days as a trioval even. So I think he just gets around that area, and maybe it's a comfort deal. So I guess kind of a bummer it didn't work out, but it didn't end up mattering anyway because everything else rained out after that. So number 3, speaking of shit happening, let's do this. Let's go NASCAR racing for our boy Brad. He's a big NASCAR guy. Just kidding, Brad. I got to be honest, Bert. A+. I got to give an A+ to this race. It was unbelievable. But in Kansas, things are heating up, and the question is, there was a couple, lots of drama, lots of league changes, great racing throughout. This was an unbelievable race. But what was bigger drama in your eyes? Okay. End of the race, Larson Hamlin, and I'll get into the details. We'll kind of lay it out for everybody in case you didn't see it, or the Noah Gragson Ross Chastain deal. So here's what happened. So the Noah Gragson Chastain deal, Gragson was having a terrible race. I think he was like 5 laps down.
Yeah, that's what after all this happened, I didn't realize he was 5 laps down. It's like, why are you upset? I'll let you continue on, but why are you upset 5 laps down?
100%. What? It's like, dude, get out of you're 5 laps down. Come on, guy, get out of the way, right? So him and Chastain races hard. He races. I don't think he's got good peripheral vision. He kind of races by feel. I like that. It's more exciting. It's fun. I like that. And he did squeeze him up. Gragson got in the fence a little bit, but no real damage. He just kind of kept rolling. After the race, right, they come down, and meanwhile, they're interviewing Kyle Larson. We'll get to that in just a second, what happened here. But needless to say, Gragson comes down, and he gets in Chastain's face. He grabs a hold of him, and he's like, what the hell's your problem? And he's kind of shaking him or whatever. And Chastain kind of give him one right in the chops. I mean,
it was a good punch. He connected.
And Gragson kind of cocked back. He was going to hit him back, and one of the NASCAR people grabbed his arm, broke it up, and it's like, kind of sucked, right? Because it's like, one guy got basically a free shot. The other guy kind of got held back. They didn't get to fight. Now, let that be a lesson, right? If I'm a firm believer, if you go in somebody's pit and you put your hands on another driver, you got one coming. It just is what it is.
Well, that's what Chastain said. He said a big guy on the team. I'm not sure who that is, but
I think it's the owner.
Okay, who is the owner?
I can't remember, but I remember.
But yeah, the big guy on the team said if anybody ever puts their hands on you, he's got one coming.
For sure. Now the other deal, right? So they're, needless to say, fist fight in the pits. Not really a fist fight, but punches throwing, altercation, physical altercation. The other deal, Kyle Larson's leading, right? And it's looking like it's coming down to the wire. He had a half a straightaway on Denny Hamlin. Hamlin chased him down. Larson getting looser and looser, kind of skated up the track, brushed the wall a couple times. On the last lap, I don't remember if it was 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. I think it was 1 and 2. Hamlin got just inside of his left rear. Larson washed. I don't know if it was because of the air taken off or he was just getting a combination of that and being free. Skates up the track, brushes the wall, which obviously broke speed a little bit. Hamlin clipped him, turned him to the left. He countered, banged off the wall to the right, and unbelievable save. Just crazy how he's so talented. Needless to say, Hamlin gets by. He gets the win. Kyle Larson gets second. The whole place is going bonkers, booing him because, it's Midwestern people. But dirt track fans, right? There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of Kyle Larson fans, and there's not a lot of Denny Hamlin. He's kind of playing the heel in this whole NASCAR deal, booing the heck out of him. So them are two things that happened. Hamlin with the bump and run. I didn't really think it was his fault. I think that's Kyle Larson's fault. I'm a Kyle Larson guy. But Bert,
it was kind of a racing deal.
Yeah. Which one to you was a bigger deal? And what's your thoughts on both things that happened at Kansas?
Well, obviously the one that's going to get the most media attention is the punch. Say what you will. Fights get attention. And
Daytona 500, baby. Daytona 500 of NASCAR really became a thing, right? That Daytona 500.
There's a saying in the newspaper industry, if it bleeds, it leads. So, so
on Facebook, I don't know if it's a official NASCAR page or not, right? But there's NASCAR pages on Facebook that they're like showing the actual like up close video footage of this deal. Uh-huh. So I don't know if that's an official NASCAR page or somebody that I don't really know, but I can tell you right now, they're going to hype the heck out of this deal because it'll put butts in the seats.
Well, I'm interested. I don't know if NASCAR has come out with an official statement yet.
Tuesday.
I'm interested to see if there's any penalties or anything. But it was funny because I was watching it because I wanted to see Larson's comments, and they were interviewing Kyle Larson. And so they had a split screen. They had Kyle Larson being interviewed, and then Chastain, because they saw Noah walking up to Chastain, and Larson's doing his interview, and they have the video so Larson can see video too, because they showed the accident and whatnot. And all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose between Chastain and Noah Gragson. And then the interviewer of Larson kind of interrupted, and then Larson goes, "Oh, what do we have going on here?"
Yeah, it kind of took the focus off that, and Larson handled it like a man. He didn't come back at the end and say, he dumped me and dirty race and dirty pool. It was like, he's like, I think he realized, and like you said, he didn't see the video. Kyle Larson's a good enough race car driver. When he watches that, he's going to be like, there's nothing he could do. It'll be interesting to see if there's more comments on that, but we'll find out.
But yeah, I just want to make another comment is, when I saw the incident with Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson, I thought they were on the same lap and they were battling for position. And then it was afterwards I found out that Noah was 6 or 5 laps down. It's like, come on, you can't get all upset if you're 5 laps down.
100%. It's like, get the hell out of the way, guy. You're not even in the race. Just move over and just, live to play another day. So, Bert, let's jump on to number 2, Eastern Wisconsin. There was racing other than Gravity Park. We'll let you touch on that right now.
Yes, Plymouth Dirt Track did get their show in. And actually, I was watching it, and actually, I think the sun came out later in the evening there. So, that was a sight to see, because we don't see that too often these days.
Not lately.
But yeah, they had, I believe it was 18 late models for the Super 6 series, because the late models are only are racing at Plymouth Dirt Track only 6 times this year. And so I was curious to see how many Shawano cars were going to go race there when Shawano was racing. But Shawano canceled Saturday, and there were only like 3 Shawano cars, and none of the top runners from Shawano went to race there. So I was really surprised by that. They had Jaden Schmidt, who's a rookie this year. He was there. Adam Yonke was there. And I don't know if there was another one or not.
Yeah, disappointed with that, but it ended up being an exciting finish, right? I think they went, basically it was on the last lap, but with 3 to go, I don't remember who was second at the time, but Taylor Scheffler was leading. Was it Richie in second?
Richie was second. Well, the thing is, Taylor Scheffler pulled out to a huge lead. He had at least a quarter track lead, if not more than that, in the feature. And the feature went green to checkered. There were no cautions in the race. So yeah, Richie and Brad Miller tracked him down. And it's kind of surprising, because Taylor Scheffler likes to run the high side, but he was glued to the bottom. Even though he was stuck behind a slower car, he would not get off the bottom, and that cost him.
Yeah, because Brad, is it Mueller or Miller?
It's Miller. It's pronounced Miller.
Yeah, so Brad Miller was third, I believe, as they went 2 to go. And he basically, I tell you what, this was one of my favorite moves of the week, because this is a guy running third place. Everybody's parked on the bottom. They got a lap car kind of use it as a pick for the leader, right? And he says, I'm going to go for it. I could follow. Most people would just follow and be like, I'm going to get third. It's a solid run. It's on the podium. He goes top shelf, not only drives by Richie, but he sneaks by Taylor Scheffler. Did you see that comment? I was shocked by that.
Well, if you watch the whole race, if you remember from earlier in the race, Brad Miller did pass some slower cars on the outside, and he was one of the few drivers who did venture up there for some laps, at least earlier in the race. So by doing that, I think he had somewhat of an idea that he could make it, he could at least give it a good try. And if it, and it wasn't going to impact them too much. So
yeah, that was impressive. So he stole one at the line. Taylor Scheffler he didn't run over a lapper, right, like Jake Tim, but he also didn't try to pass the lapper, and it cost him a win. Did he
Well,
get
he
third?
actually fell to third. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought Richie got by him.
Richie got by him at the line.
That, I mean, as a racer, you play that one back in your mind, and you are sick to your stomach. I mean, that is just a tough deal.
Well, I've interviewed plenty of drivers who stated that, you know, sometimes being in the lead is a disadvantage because you don't know what lines other drivers are racing, and you know, you're comfortable in a line, and sometimes you get too comfortable. And I think he had the feeling that, you know, nobody's going to be able to pass on the high side, you know, the way the track was, and so he just stayed behind the slower car, but didn't work out that way.
It did not. So nice win for Brad Miller there. Congratulations on that one. And number one for US MTS action, and it has been unbelievable all year long. I mean, it has been absolutely phenomenal, right? Tyler Davis stole the show, right? Tanner Mullins out to a monumental lead. It's like it is over. Closing laps, 40 lap A main, 10,000 to win. Jayhawk Classic at Lakeside. Bert, this racetrack was phenomenal. A top, a bottom, roll in the middle. I mean, it was absolutely incredible racing down there. And it looked like it was flat over, right? They took the white flag. Here comes Tyler Davis. He's poking him, right? He's right with them. But it looked like all he had to do was hit his marks. And he come down into 3 and 4 through the slider, took the win. Turns out Tanner Mullins right rear flat at the line. His right rear tire went down in the closing laps. Tyler Davis there to capitalize his first win of the year in a Bills-built race car, which I know nothing about. So another chassis brand win. But so Tyler Davis parking in victory lane. Tanner Mullins has the Heart 2. It's an O2, but a Heart 2. And that heart kind of fell. It was kind of a broken heart, number 2 in this one. That's not very nice. So, Bert, let's jump on to a little fan feedback here. So, before we do that, you know, it's kind of cool. We have fans sending us questions each week. If you have questions, right? If you're a fan and if you have a question, if you have a topic, you know, hey guys, we want your opinion on this. We want your thoughts on this. You know, you can text or message either me, Bert, or the One to Go show, however you want to do it. We'd love to get your content out there. Before we do that, quick shout out, buyraceshirts.com. Whether you need hats, shirts, hoodies, apparel, jackets, whatever it may be, for racers, by racers. Of course, Jordan Tollickson and the crew down in Montevideo, Minnesota do an awesome job. They got a lot of different ways that you can purchase, small quantities, big quantities, kind of plain stuff, more fancy, whatever your needs are, they can meet those needs at buyraceshirts.com. So Carter had a question and he emailed us, and actually maybe I'll let you why don't you go ahead and read that one off there, Bert?
Yeah, with Illinois Speed Week coming up, I'd like to hear what tracks you guys would include in your own personal speed week. Which 4 or 5 tracks would you go to, and what would be your top class plus one support class? Also, let's pretend you will get a good car count no matter what tracks you choose. Keep up the good work, guys. I had to throw that in there.
That's a guy from Eastern Wisconsin, from the Berg, representing old Luxembourg there. So Bert, what do you got? Like, if in your area or wherever, it could be anywhere, probably 4 or 5 tracks that you'd kind of bunch together, your own little speed week, and what 2 classes would you have?
Well, I mean, as everybody says, I'm a late model guy, so let me do late models. I'm gonna do Eastern Wisconsin just because that's where I'm from. I mean, I guess, what's the driving distance that the most the track could be away?
Couple 100 miles. Oh yeah. Well, as far as away, I don't think you'd want to go much more than maybe 100, right? I mean, okay. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, for late model, you'd have to have Shawano Speedway just because it's late models.
Homer.
I would, and then I would go with Seymour. Luxembourg, and then probably 141 Speedway.
Okay.
That would be 4. Well, I should throw Plymouth in there because they race late models. Well, not as much anymore, but they still have late models.
I sense a little animosity with that eye roll there. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
no, I'm fine. I mean, I'm hoping that means there'll be more late models at Shawano
Right.
on the weeks that they're not racing late models. Yeah, I would go with those 5 tracks.
And what support class would be late model deal? But what class would you have with them?
I would have IMCA stock cars.
That's a pretty good choice right there. So I'm gonna probably get in trouble for this because everybody wants their class picked, right? But in WISSOTA country, if I kind of looking geographically on how it would work out, I'd do a kind of a swing with the River City Speedway up in Grand Forks. Awesome little bull ring, right? Fergus Falls, which isn't too terribly far away. It's kind of at that 100, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe not quite that far. But I do like either Grand Forks first, Fergus Falls second, or Fergus Falls, then Grand Forks. Probably Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, Madison, Minnesota, and then Watertown, South Dakota. And they're all kind of within a fairly tight knit, not too terribly far to drive. And 2 of those tracks are bull rings, and they are super fun. Madison is by far the fastest 3/8 mile track I've ever raced on in my life when it's prepped right. I mean, all dirt tracks can have good nights and bad nights, right? But when Madison's on, that place is insanely fast. And when Fergus is on, I mean, you're banging the berm, you're riding the wall, and slide jobs are wide open. So that place can be phenomenal. So I'm just going to assume that we're taking all 4 of these tracks at their very best, right?
Right.
So Bert went late models, and everybody's like, I mean, a good late model race on all of these tracks is a good race, right? It just is. But I'm going to kind of go against the grain here a little bit, and I'm going to go WISSOTA modifieds, because all 4 of these tracks right here, when there's mods, when they have a good field of mods, it is a freaking awesome race. And then, like Bert, I'm not going to go IMCA stock cars. I'm going to go WISSOTA street stocks, because they're probably the most entertaining class. I just love that class as far as the spectator goes. So modifieds and street stocks, and I'm thinking pretty darn big payday to get everybody there, but that would be super cool to put something together like that. So Carter, thanks for the question there.
If I were to do a late model 4 race series in the state of Wisconsin, I'd go Shawano, because I'm a homer, and also it's a half mile. I mean, there aren't many half miles, so just to add some variety. But I'd do Shawano, Beaver Dam, and then Mississippi Thunder, and then Cedar Lake. You kind of have a square there.
Right. And that would be a little bit of driving, but that would be 4 really good races for sure. There's no question. So Jordan had a question here as well. And this kind of came back, and he texted me, and he said, actually messaged me on Facebook. He said the best race of the weekend in WISSOTA country. And you can see this on Dirt Race Central, right? The official streaming platform of the One to Go show. So you can find all these races on there, and he watched them all, as did I. Must have a subscription. If you don't, get one, because they got some good stuff and a lot of races. But he said the best race of the weekend in WISSOTA country was a photo finish for the short trackers, Bert. The short trackers at I-94 Speedway. Last lap, last corner pass for the win. And his question is this: is it fair that the starter classes always have to go last, right? And I'm not talking at a special, right? You got to, first of all, if you have a Lucas Oil late model race or something like that, you don't have short trackers. Nothing against short trackers, you just don't do that. It's not, they don't go together.
Okay? What are short trackers? 4-cylinders?
Hornets, IMCA Sport, Compact, same type of deal, right? It's your 4-cylinder class. It's the beginner class, the starter class. So weekly racing, even maybe a local special of some kind. Is it fair? What is your thoughts, Bert? Should they run them last? And if so, okay, say so. And if not, when should they run them? What is your thoughts? And then I'll share mine.
I'm not opposed to mixing them into the program in a different location other than last. They pay the same amount of money to get in as the other divisions, so I don't have a problem racing them not of them not being last all the time. Actually, I think it was either last year or the year before Shawano started. I mean, because the four cylinders used to always run last, but now they don't always run last. They do run earlier in the evening some nights. Shawano actually has, and I don't know, maybe other tracks have this too. They have a rotation that the divisions race in, so it's not the same order every week.
I kind of like that, right? Because it also gives each driver a little maybe flavor of a different track surface. I mean, back when I was in the super stock, I'm like, I want to run last every night, right? Because I want it black and shiny all the way to the top. Now it's like, okay, I'm maybe not quite as smooth as I once was. If I got back in a car, I probably want a little more grip. I want to run a little earlier. But I looked at this, Bert, and I'm like, man, that's a good question, right? So I remember a couple of years back, I got to help out at the Hibbing Raceway, right? I got to be down in Victory Lane and kind of present the winner with the trophy, do the Victory Lane interview. In this 4-cylinder kid, it was a Wissota Hornet at the time. He won, and he was super excited. He saw the trophy. He looked up in the grandstands, and it was empty. There was nobody there. All right. Well, nobody races for money. That's just not a thing, right? I mean, if you were racing for money, you're just not very smart because you can't make money, right? But you can have a hell of a lot of fun, right? Racing is a great sport. And if you want these young kids to kind of have that edification, there's nothing better than when they win a big race, having a bunch of people come down and say, man, you did great. That was awesome. That was one of the best races of the night. If it's last every time and you have your old school fans and nothing against them, everybody's got their preference, right? But there's people out there, wow, I mean, when the late models are done, I'm leaving. Maybe you should stick around and watch some of these starter classes, because that's going to be your future late model drivers down the road. We hope that's kind of the goal. We want them to be able to move up, and they're not gonna if nobody ever says, hey man, you're doing great, so I mean, I 100% agree with him that I think that I like that rotation deal. I like what they do there. I like when sometimes it's last, sometimes it's first, everything in between. I am perfectly great with that. And I get it. If it's a special, Bert, and let's say it's a late model special and you got late model guys from kind of all over the place coming in to race, well, you ain't going to make them necessarily run last and the fans run last if the show's going long. I get that. But on a weekly deal, I kind of like mixing it up, and I think that's a good idea, because some of the best races, I'm telling you, some of the best races are these beginner classes, and they're super fun to watch. And a lot of fans miss out because they think they want to watch mods and they want to watch late models and they want to get out. I want to get home. I saw what I wanted to see, and they miss the good stuff. Stick around for the good stuff.
And like at Plymouth Dirt Track last weekend, I'm not sure if late models were going to run first anyway, but there was a threat of weather coming in, and the late models did run first. I'm not sure if the weather was the reason for that, but there were 3 other features after the late model feature was over.
Right. And that makes sense, right? Because that was a late model special. The Super 6, they got 6 nights where they have late models. Get those ones in, right? And then everybody else, if they have to make them up, they can. So I get it. When weather, there's different factors, but typically speaking, I agree. You don't always have to run them last. They deserve to be watched, and they deserve fans watching them as well. So, Bert, let's jump into a little who's hot and who's not, right? Brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. So fans of the show, I mean, if you pay for your own health insurance, if you're self-employed, if you're a business owner and you have employees, if maybe you don't have health insurance because you're like, I'm not paying that much. If you feel like you need to be paying less than what you're paying now for healthcare coverage, I may have a solution for you. The folks at Impact Health Sharing have been saving people a ton of money, literally half price, sometimes even cheaper. You go to any doctor. It's been a great program. Hit me up, 218-969-1380, and I'd be glad to get you a quick quote, get you some information. If it's a good fit for you, help you keep some money in your pocket to go racing, because that's a lot more fun. So, Bert, I'm telling you what, literally, I think that certain drivers need to start putting the One to Go show on their car, right? Last week we
I
say
know where you're
Donnie
going
Schatz.
with this.
Donnie Schatz. Now he didn't win. He didn't win. But he had the best weekend he's had all year long. A third and a second. Why? Why, Bert? Why? Because we called them out. That's what we do, right? That's what we do. We call you out. So if you're a driver out there and you get on this list, we call you out and we're like, man, you're sucking it up. Like you're on the not list here, right? You need to just, not be mad. You need to thank us is what you need to do. You need to thank us because you're probably going to be fast next week. We're doing it for you, right? We're doing it for you. So, Bert, who's hot?
Well, obviously Hudson O'Neal is hot. I mean, he almost won all of the races last week.
Yeah, first and a pair of seconds this weekend for the old Rocket One ride right there. Took over the Lucas Oil Point lead as well, Bert. Snatched that away from RTJ. And I was looking here, Bert, since February 9th, which was East Bay. He had 14 shows from then. He had one flat while leading at Eldora, right? Other than that, he had nothing worse than a 6. He had 1 6, the 5th, everything else 4th or better. 10 podiums, 5 wins. It don't get much hotter. I mean, he is literally on fire right now, and they're really not looking like they're slowing down anytime soon. Who else you got?
Well, he's not getting the wins, but guess who's leading the points in the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series?
The big cat, Brad Sweet. Is he the T-Mac, right, of the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series?
Yeah, I was a little surprised when I saw that he was leading the points, and it's like he just consistently runs in the top 3, top 5, and other drivers have one bad night, and that's all it takes.
He's a smart race car driver, right? You don't have 4 straight World of Outlaw championships because you're doing dumb stuff. I mean, he's on it. I'm gonna stick with the World of Outlaws here. Sprint cars. I'm gonna go with Rico Abreu.
Yeah.
Bert, he's got this weekend alone. He had a third. I don't know if it was just a 410, so he got third, and then he got a second and a first at Eldora, right, with the World of Outlaws. Well, we talked about Donnie Schatz. Schatz got a third and a second, right? So both of these two, it's coming up in July, right? $1 million to win at Eldora. I tell you what, both of them two look like they found another gear. Rico, all year long, right? The eye test just says this is the best year I've seen him have. Like he has been phenomenally good. So Rico Abreu on the hot list. How about not?
Well, I'm gonna go with a driver that really disappointed me this last week. Josh Rice. he normally dominates Florence, and I mean, he was racing. Granted, Lucas was there, so winning is a little bit more challenging. But he wasn't even in contention. I think he started third, and he started falling back right away early in the race, and then he had the pit.
He rolled the nose.
He had some damage on his nose later on, and he had to pit for that. And so it wasn't a good night for him.
I'm gonna Mike, sit down if you're listening to this right now. Are you seated? Okay. Superman, Jonathan Davenport. 7 straight nights, Bert, off the podium. 7 straight. We're basically a third of the way through the season. He only has 5 wins all year. That's not, $2 million in earnings last year. I mean, it's not that he's been terrible, right? But I mean, when you compare this year to last year and the money that he made, he's not even looking like he's the top guy right now.
I mean, what was the last race that they raced last week?
Florence.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he was running in the top 3. He started near the front, if not in the. Yeah, I think he was on the front row.
Yeah.
And as the race went on, he started getting passed. You just don't see Superman get passed by other drivers when he starts in the front.
Right. So we'll see if he can find another gear when some of these really big shows start to happen here. And but right now he's just not been on the hot list at all. And I'm gonna. Do you have anybody else there on the not list?
No, you can go ahead.
I'm gonna stick with Rodney Sanders. So Rodney Sanders he's been there. He's been fairly solid. He just can't sniff a win, right? I think he forgot how. I'm not really sure. I think he remembers how to drive a race car, but I think he forgot how to win USFTS races. So we're going to see if old Rodney Sanders can get her done here. So, Bert, last week's picks here. So let's take a look at this. So let's jump into our section here where we do our pick'ems, but right, and we'll do a little recap of what we saw in the races. Before we get into that, a little shout out to our friend Brad Parson. He has, solutions for all your farming needs, right? So Brad, a racer himself, right? He's raced multiple things. He's got a late model, buddy of mine from over in central Minnesota. But what he does is he helps farmers. So if you're a farmer and you're in western Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, planting season's here, right? He's got all kinds of different solutions that you can mix with your current spray packages, right? And he's got all the data, right? He guarantees that he's gonna have a pretty darn good product for you to check out. And what I recommend doing is calling Brad 320-219-3542. I don't know nothing about farming, but I do know a little bit about money. And if you have the right products, if you get better yields, right, that's going to equal more money in your pocket. And that's what he can do for you. So give him a call, let him get you the information, test out some of his stuff, and we'll see if maybe it'll help you out. So World of Outlaw late models last week, Bert, we were going to pick just the finale. We weren't going to pick the preliminary. You know what? Speaking of that, we have another fan question here. I wrote this one down. So speaking of World of Outlaw, so Brad, friend of the show here, he asked, he goes, do you guys like this format, right, that they have, or do you prefer just to have the full show each night, right? So last year, I believe Mississippi Thunder had just 3 complete shows. This year they were doing split features. I'll call them split qualifiers day 1, split qualifiers day 2, and then they were going to take accumulated points, line up the heat races on Saturday, and roll into the features off of that. Which format do you prefer?
Well, before we do that, I just want to mention also, I did hear the announcer announce this during the race. If you win one of these mini features, it does not count as an official World of Outlaw feature win.
I did hear that too. I did hear that, which that's how it should be, because it's not a real feature. I like that. Kudos. Thank you, Ruben. All right.
Me personally, I like the complete shows each night. I like having, at the end of the night, there's one winner, and there are no ties. There's one winner.
Yeah, 100%. Now, okay, so if I had to pick, I like the 3 complete shows for sure. Okay, but I understand it as a racetrack that if you're going to pay $50,000 to win, it's pretty tough to pay 10 or 15 the first 2 nights and then pay 50. That's a lot of money, right? You're going to get the same fan base regardless. So what they're trying to do is trying to figure out how do we work this to where the track can actually not go broke doing this, right? So I personally don't like where you combine the points from the first 2 nights, because you take a guy like Jake Tim or Brent Larson or whatever, right?
Well, Brian Gustin was in an accident.
Gustin or yeah, exactly, right? So anybody that had bad, you have a terrible night 1, no matter how good you do night 2, you're going to be buried on night 3 when it comes to the big show. If you're going to run a 3-day show where you're kind of setting up night 1 and 2 are setting up night 3, why not do it where night 1, right? And I think Eldora maybe does something like this, but why not do night 1 where they take, you run your full show night 1 and then take, say, the top three. I wouldn't go much more than that because you want a full show on the last night too. But the top three, maybe top four, and that's your inside row. And then on night two, you have a full show, and that's the outside row. And then from that point forward, you take their best point night and line up the heat races and run a full show on Saturday. I'd be okay with that.
How was Mississippi Thunder? What was their show going to be like Saturday night? Were they going to run heat races Saturday night?
Yeah, from what I understand,
Okay.
and I could be wrong, is they were going to take accumulated points from night 1 and 2, accumulate them, and then line up the heat races based off your finishing position. Finishing position, but based on your point count from the first 2 nights.
That's how Eldora does it for the World 100 and the Dream. They have the twin features Thursday night, Friday night, and you accumulate points, and then you line up for your heat races for Saturday night based on the points you accumulated the first 2 nights.
Yeah, and I just don't like the accumulated. I mean, I guess, if you're paying that big money, it's kind of a culmination of a whole weekend. Ultimately, right, I think you and I both agree just three separate entities is better, but let's just say I don't think the fans left disappointed unless you're a B1 or a 49 fan, but it was definitely still relatively exciting.
And me personally, I almost prefer the USA Nationals procedures better than these other procedures. That they run a complete show on Thursday night that's totally unrelated to the USA National show. A lot of drivers will treat it as a test session, or they're only racing for like 8,000 to win or something like that. But you want to race because you want laps on the track. But then they do the double heat races, and then you get passing points. From a fan's perspective, it's more racing to watch.
And kinda, right? Because this is the same thing, right? So the split features is nothing more than paid heat races, right?
Well, yeah.
So this format here, they're still doing double heats.
Well, you would this format, you actually have more races because you have heat races on Saturday night too, where at USA Nationals there are no heat races on Saturday night.
Right, true.
Just the B's and the last chance race, and then the feature.
The other thing is this: when you look at a show like the Prairie Dirt Classic, right? Well, they got 4. They split it up. It's 4 races, right? When you only have enough for 2, and you're doing and I don't think it works as good. You look at the World 100 or anything at Eldora, right? They don't have 2. They got 6, right? I think they have 6 qualifiers on each night. They don't just have 2. So I think that changes thing a little bit too. But I guess it's their track, and when we own our own, we can kind of do our own format however we want. But we're all bummed out that they didn't get the 50 lapper, and of course we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the show.
Now, but they are going to reschedule that for August sometime.
I don't think it's a rescheduled. I think they just scheduled.
That's right. They're
separate entity.
They're coming back to Mississippi Thunder the last week of August, and then they're going to Deer Creek after that for another show. I think
it's going to be 2 complete shows at Mississippi Thunder and 1 So they got together, and obviously the folks from Deer Creek probably were at the races, and they all talked, and they said, let's just make something happen so our fans get a chance to see these drivers. So that's pretty cool. But the World of Outlaws, the main show rained out. Brandon Shepard, Cade Dillard, they each won qualifiers on night 1. USMTS Modifieds night 1, Mother Nature got her done. She's been pretty quick. High win percentage for Mother Nature. Night number 2, Jake O'Neill parked it in victory lane. He had some pressure there, Bert. Caden Carter, right? He was coming for him on the bottom. Sanders got 3rd, Ramirez 4th, Tanner Mullins 5th. Now, Mike and Dan both had Jake O'Neill, so 2 points for them. Night number 3, Tyler Davis. We talked about that earlier. He won. Mullins 2nd, Ramirez 3rd, Sanders 4th, Jake O'Neill 5th. Kind of interesting. The only one different in that whole deal was Caden Carter, right? He wasn't in the top 5. So 4 of the top 5 were 4 of the top 5 both nights. That's pretty good weekend for 4 drivers right there. Pretty interesting there. Mike and Jeff both had Mullins. Thank you, Tyler Davis, for sniping one from them guys. They got 1 point instead of 2. So let's head over World of Outlaw sprint car action at Eldora. Kind of a little precursor to the Million coming up later this year. I think end of July. Logan Schuchart, really good on half miles. He took night number 1. None of us had Logan Schuchart. Mike, Brad, Jeff, all 3 had the Big Cat Brad Sweet, who got 4th, and 1 point for them. Rico, incidentally, 2nd and a 1st. Donnie Schatz, a 3rd and a 2nd. What else we got here? David Gravel got a 5th and a 3rd. So 3 of the top 5 were top 5 both nights.
I want to make a comment about the sprint cars. Normally I just watch the highlights on the World of Outlaws YouTube channel, and they take the whole race and condense it into 3 or 4 minutes. I actually watched the complete race on Dirt Vision of the feature from the last night, and I can't remember who, but they were in an accident, broke the front axle. They had damage on the rear tire. They pulled them into the pits, and you get what, 2 minutes, 1 minute,
hour, half hour.
Well, no,
we'll just sit here till your car's ready. That's
well, no, I mean, you get 1 or 2 minutes before they're going to go green. So they do give you some time to fix whatever. So they were trying to change the front axle, some suspension stuff, plus stuff on the rear in 2 minutes. And they had the front axle out and they were putting a new one in. But it's just amazing how fast they can do some of that stuff.
Well, did you also notice that when Sheldon Hottenchild broke, he exploded a tire and tore up some shit, right? This is like lap 10, and they're gonna be like, oh, we're gonna do a red flag on the track. It's lap 10. There ain't nobody on it. It's lap. What are you talking about, right?
Well, the announcer said we've had a lot of cautions, they've done a lot of laps, and we don't want anybody to run low on fuel.
And we want one of our followers to get back out there, not miss any laps. I get it. It's all good. So Rico won, and then Schatz 2nd, Gravel 3rd. So Mike, Ryan, myself, I'm Ryan, by the way, and Carl, we all had David Gravel. He got 3rd, so we each got a point there. I don't know. I was kind of surprised by that. Donnie Schatz came from 11th in that one. Bert, I was ready to write him off, right? I was literally going, I mean, Donnie Schatz is great. 2nd best sprint car driver to ever strap in, right? He's not Steve Kinzer, but he's good. He's close, right? The fact is, he didn't forget how to drive. I just don't think he's been hungry, right? Now, last year was the same thing. That hunger on your 10,000 win show is probably not quite as much there as it was in the past. But when the Knoxville Nationals came, that hunger came back and showed him how it got done. Well, guess what? He knows there's a million to win race coming up here at Knoxville. Do you think he's a little extra motivated for some of these bigger races than he is for like kind of the bulk of the season?
I mean, that definitely could be the case. I mean, almost anybody's going to be more motivated when there's more money on the line.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, some people are just at that stage of their career where they're hungry every night, right?
Well, yeah.
Like, I want to win everything. And I think he's beyond that, right? A 10-time champion, right? And he's won everything there is to win. So I think that winning just another World of Outlaw race isn't a big deal. But I'm telling you, that team looked extra motivated. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, too. Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series, Bert. Atomic. Hudson O'Neill. So Kurt, Kent, Dan, and yours truly, we all had Huddy win for us. And the top 3 in this one, Hudson O'Neill, Brandon Overton, Mike Marlar. Incidentally, the top 3 the next night, Marlar, Hudson O'Neill, Brandon Overton. That was at Ponderosa. Nobody had Marlar but myself and Bert. We each had Huddy. He got 2nd. Another point there. Thank you, Hudson O'Neill. Night number 3, Florence. right? We like falls, we like slide jobs, we like banging the berm. You get that at Florence as well. RTJ. I don't know if I got to flatten out the bill when I say RTJ, but I probably got to have Puka talk about him. But I think I'm the only one that had Huddy for that one there, Bert. He got second. So Huddy got me points all 3 nights. He's my boy. I'm kind of a Huddy fan right now. Incidentally, in that race, so Overton got third, so he was on the podium all 3 nights as well. So was Huddy. Great, kind of quiet, right? Overton, I mean, he was there, but it's like he wasn't talked about quite as much. But 3 great nights, a second and 2 thirds. How about Garrett Alberson? Plus 15 the 4th. He had he struggled all year. He's had a hell of a race. T-Mac, who's been kind of quiet, plus 13 the 5th.
Wow.
Florence did not disappoint.
T-Mac had to go through the B main to get into the feature.
Yep.
And
so did Alberson.
And they interviewed T-Mac afterwards, and they talked about his struggles. And, he said that, he changed shocks after qualifying. He changed shocks after the heat race, and they had things doing all sorts of things. And I mean, I'm guessing all the Longhorn drivers kind of park right next to each other, because he said there were other drivers and other team members working on his car to get it ready for the feature. But I mean, all the drivers were Longhorn drivers.
Right. I'm telling you, there's something to that little bit of chemistry. And we're down the street, right? Talk to Dan, and we're talking about that, and you realize who's kind of helping out the Rocket team, right? The old pit guy for Jimmy Owens, right? So he's been kind of roaming around there, Cody Mallory. And, I'm telling you what, that Rocket 1 is the fastest car in dirt late model racing right now. I'm not saying that he's got a ton of influence, but he's kind of hanging around that Rocket camp. I don't know. Would you rather, Bert, Rocket or Longhorn right now today?
I'd take a Longhorn.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd probably take a Rocket. I never drove a Longhorn. I did drive a Rocket. It was good then. And I tell you, I think he's by far the fastest one, but the most of the faster ones are in Longhorn. Right. So there is that. So our weekly pick'ems, our standings right now, Bert. That guy that likes to shovel snow that lives up in the Upper Peninsula, South Canada, East Wisconsin, up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Jeff's leading the way at 49. Mike jumped up. He's in second now, 1 point back for Mike at 48. Yours truly, kind of little rod and reel right here, chasing these guys down. I'm at 47. Kurt's at 46. Brad is at 39. Kent and Dan at 38. Bert is lurking at 37. Literally only 12 points separating you from the lead right now, right? And not so hot Carl is at 22. Now, I will say this, Bert. Carl picked Brent Larson last week. And we said if you pick somebody that's kind of an outlier, we specifically Brent, that if he wins, we're going to give him double points. He had a shot. I mean, there was no points. We didn't pick that race, but he was good there. So Carl, the only one bold enough to take some of these outliers there, hasn't quite paid off yet. So this week, Bert, the Illinois Speed Week, Castro Flow Racing Night in America, Wednesday and Thursday. Of course, on Flow Racing, Wednesday at Spoon River, Thursday at Lincoln, both in Illinois. Those races look like the weather's fantastic. The next two, let's just hope Mother Nature plays nice, because the next two are going to be good. The next two are they're Lucas Oil races, right? Yeah, Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series. Friday at Farmer City, the Farmer 74, and Saturday at #Falls. And so 4 nights of late model action on Flow Racing. And with the World of Outlaw late model is not running. I looked at the list, and almost everybody that's a hitter is going to be at these shows. So you're going to want to tune in. World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Bert, Wednesday, Lincoln, PA. Friday, Saturday at Williams Grove. The Posse versus the Outlaws. It's coming. It's going to be good. So we got we got, what do we got? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 races that we're picking here this week. And let's jump into the last lap. Brought to you by our friends at Dirt Track Supply out in Watertown, South Dakota. They supply parts to a lot of racetracks. They're the trackside vendor at a lot of tracks in the area out there. Also, they build the Aero chassis. The Aero chassis already hitting pay dirt out in Wyoming, Montana area in the street stock division. Multiple wins already for the Aero chassis. If you need parts, tires, safety equipment, advice, body work, fabricating, you name it, Ron and Trevor at Dirt Track Supply have been helping racers competing themselves as racers at a high level for many years. Check them out, give them a call, tell them we sent you at Dirt Track Supply in Watertown. So, Bert, we talked about this already. World of Outlaw late models adding basically 3 more shows to the schedule. A pair of them at Mississippi Thunder, one of them down at Deer Creek. Your thoughts?
I think it's a good move. If they can make the logistics work, it's a good move. Fans, the Dairyland race hasn't been around for very long, but it's a heavily anticipated race, at least in Wisconsin. So it's good to see them come back later this summer, since it got rained out last weekend.
Yeah, both those tracks are fantastic. So the Gopher 50 is a Lucas race, right?
Yeah.
So now Deer Creek is going to have a Lucas race and a World of Outlaw race. It's pretty cool for late model fans down in southern Minnesota / I guess it would be western Wisconsin, right? Little news for NASCAR. Kinda. What happened here? Did you see that?
Yeah, Larry Phillips was named to NASCAR's top 75 list, because NASCAR's celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. So 25 years ago they named the top 50, so now they're adding 25 more drivers.
That's super cool. We talked about him actually on our Blast to the Past episode that comes out. It's going to be coming out moving forward each and every Friday. You're going to want to tune into that on YouTube and on Facebook. Our Blast to the Past episode, where we turn back time, talk about the racers and things that happened in the past. Kind of a fun segment that we do. But congratulations to the Phillips family. Of course, Larry no longer with us, but Terry Phillips, a phenomenal racer and just a great history with that family. Little news, Bert, in the sprint car world. Not maybe necessarily totally the World of Outlaws, but 410 sprint cars. Over the weekend, Parker Price Miller, Buddy Kofoid, both parting ways with their respective teams. Unbelievable. Parker Price Miller, he just wasn't necessarily having a great year by any means. Buddy Kofoid's been fast. Yeah. He's been legit good. And this is speculation. From what I've seen, is Buddy wanted to kind of follow the World of Outlaws series. Car owner says, look, we're just going to kind of race, wherever. And it sounds like they just weren't on the same page, decided to part ways. And tell you what, if there's a sprint car team out there looking for a driver, that Buddy Kofoid kid can flat out wheel a race car. That I would not hesitate to put him in a ride. And he's number 7. Was he number 11 or 71?
I want to say, I think 11.
Yeah, he pretty sharp looking car, very fast, and kind of a bummer there. 2 drivers. It's kind of rare that happens, 2 of them in the same week. Another thing, Bert, for fans, if you're on Facebook, especially if you're in northern Minnesota, like if you went to Hibbing, if you went to Rapids, Proctor, even Superior, some of them tracks were your home turf, follow Vintage Iron Range Dirt Track Racing on Facebook. A buddy of mine, Lem, puts that together, and he put together a video a few weeks back on a couple of racers that have been around for a long time. He has another couple of videos out, Bert, showcasing and kind of telling the history a little bit of Kelly Lake Racing. And boy, he does a great job. So hats off for Lem for all you do. And if you haven't seen that, you're going to want to check that out. It's super cool. So, Bert, what do you say we jump into little predictions here on our bold predictions, right, from last week? So, before we do that, quick shout out Mason Aaron's videos. Mason, of course, does all the editing for us. We're super thankful for him because Bert and I don't really have the time to do all the behind the scenes stuff. We do the show, and if it weren't for him, putting this all together, it would be very tough to get this done each and every week. And he has a lot of great content himself. If you haven't checked it out, check out his YouTube page. Does a lot of super cool stuff on drivers, B-roll type stuff. Very, very good for the sport. So Mason, thank you. So Bert, you had a rough week, guy.
I've had a few rough weeks.
Not like this. This was it hurts me to see.
I got close on one of them. Justin Ritchie almost.
You did. So Bert had 3 come off the board. All 3 of them you picked last week. You said Josh Rice was going to win at Florence. Not a bad pick. Did not happen. You said Sheldon Hodenschild was going to win at least one at Eldora. Didn't sniff a top 5. Actually, he was up there that one night and exploded a right rear tire. He was I think he was in second though when it happened. And then of course you said Justin Ritchie was going to win at Plymouth, and you went ahead and jinxed him. He still had a good run, second, nothing wrong with it, and he was there. I mean, he was right there. So 3 off the board, 3 no's. I said Josh Rice won't even make the podium. That was correct. Now, so I'm going to ask your input on this. So Jeff sent over he kind of keep track. So thanks, Jeff, for kind of our statistician. And he gave me credit for this couldn't happen. It was not something that could happen. So I said Brent Larson's going to get at least one top 10 at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. And he just put it down as it don't count because they didn't race the whole weekend. If he would have got a top 10 the first night, I would have counted it.
I know you would have.
So, Bert, I got to take one on the chin there, I think. Huh?
I think so.
All right, Jeff. So you're going to have to go ahead and fix the numbers here, because I saw that and I'm like, I mean, put it this way. When I'm saying that, well, the group decided, right, that when Jeff made his prediction, that he still puts on the stat sheet that he got right, which he did not because it got voted wrong. If we're going to hold him to that, we got to hold me accountable as well.
Well, I actually had another one come off the board, and we have to decide.
Oh, what do you got?
Mr. Excitement. Remember I said that I can't remember did I say his first race would be at Eastern Wisconsin track, or his first appearance would be at an Eastern Wisconsin track? Because he was at a practice at Seymour before he went to Mississippi Thunder.
All right. Jeff is going to have to go back through, because we can look at what episode it is. We're going to have to look back. We're going to have to go back on the tape. You're going to have to text us in the group to check that one out. So, see, we hold ourselves accountable. We don't just take credit when we get it right. We might get it wrong and take credit for that too. So, all right. So, fair enough. So, based on the numbers that we had, I had 15 correct, 32 incorrect, 31.9. I think that's going to be 33 incorrect. So that number will be a little lighter. You have 22 correct, 27 incorrect, 44.9. Depending on how that one works, that could go either way for you there. So this week's picks, Bert, okay? And this week, and again, what we're doing is we're picking 3 mostly racing related, could be a sports topic as well. It's got to be something that we can either say this flat out did happen or did not happen. It's not an opinion based deal. It's like, we're going to say something's going to happen, and it either did or didn't. And we pick 3. We keep track of if we get them right, we get them wrong, have a little fun with it. Bert, you go first.
I'm going to go with Illinois drivers will take 3 out of the 4 races in Illinois this week.
Where's Hudson O'Neill from?
Indiana.
Yeah, you're screwed. All right. All right. So Bert's pick, Illinois late model drivers at the Illinois Speed Weeks will win 3 of the 4 features. Okay, now let me ask you this: we want to change. What if two of them rain out? Is it going to just be like, well, it couldn't happen, or are we gonna? Do you want to? Do you want to change that to only one of the features will be lost by an Illinois guy, or do you want to kind of keep it how you got it? I just want to kind of look out for something.
I can do that. Only one of the features will be lost.
Okay. Okay. Only one, at most one of the features will be lost by a non-Illinois late model driver. Okay. Which is going to be fine because Huddy's going to win the first two. So that's just going to happen. I'll go on that theme here. Hudson O'Neal will have the best average finish in A-Mains at the Illinois Speed Weeks.
Okay.
Put my money where my mouth is. That's what I'm going to do.
I will go World of Outlaws take 2 out of 3 from the Pennsylvania posse.
So the World of Outlaws will win at least 2.
Yes.
Is it specifically they're going to win 2 of 3?
Oh.
Or how do you want that?
Okay, we'll say at least 2, because then if one gets rained out, at least 2.
Okay. I'll go with some World of Outlaw stuff here. I don't know if it's a World of Outlaw sanctioned event or not. 10-time World of Outlaw champion Donnie Schatz is going to win the million at Eldora.
I do want to say one thing, though, with Shawano getting rained out last week, my Nick Aveling pick is still on the board.
That sucks. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that wasn't going to happen, but yeah, fair enough.
For my final one, I'll stay with Richie, and I'll say he wins the Super 6 late model race this weekend at Plymouth.
Okay. I'll go Eastern Wisconsin late model, kind of Eastern Wisconsin late. We'll go series anyway. So we're a week away from the Wabam Dirt Kings season opener at the Red Cedar Speedway in Menominee, Wisconsin. The 58, former Eastern Wisconsin guy, transitioned over to Western Wisconsin. AJ Demel is going to win the opening night of the Wabam Dirt Kings Tour at Red Cedar.
That's so a good pick.
Hopefully he shows up, right? So I will. Hopefully he shows up. So
he was there last year for the Dirt Kings race.
He won it last year. Yeah, pretty sure he won it. So
he was first or second.
Yeah. So there you have it. Episode 176 in the books. Fans, by all means, shoot us over some questions, comments. Make sure to subscribe and like us on Facebook and on YouTube as well, on your favorite podcast. Thanks to all the sponsors. I'm Ryan. That is Bert. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.